What if I told you you were summoned here, not by luck, not by an algorithm, but by something older than time itself? There's a reason you clicked, and it's buried in a force you can't name, yet you've felt it your whole life. The Egyptians believed that sacred knowledge only reveals itself to those vibrating at the right frequency, and the god who guards that knowledge? Thoth, scribe of the gods, architect of language, master of manifestation. He doesn't appear in your life casually. His symbols, his presence, his whispers emerge only when your soul is ready to remember. This is not just a video. This is a message, hidden in plain sight. The only question is, will you listen? There's a moment, subtle, almost imperceptible, when the veil shifts. It might be a dream you can't forget, a phrase you overheard that felt too personal, or a strange synchronicity that makes the hairs on your neck rise. And in that moment, something within you whispers, this isn't random. You didn't find this video by accident. And no, that's not a poetic hook. It's a statement grounded in one of the oldest spiritual laws known to humanity. Nothing appears before you unless your soul is ready to see it. You've likely felt this for a while. A quiet pull toward ancient knowledge, a suspicion that something deeper is at play in the fabric of your life, as if reality is layered with hidden symbols, trying to initiate you into a greater truth. And now here you are, watching a video about a being most people have never taken seriously. Thoth, the ancient Egyptian god with the head of an ibis and the heart of a cosmic architect. But Thoth is not a character from mythology. He's a mirror. He shows up not in temples or textbooks, but in moments of awakening, when your internal frequency begins to sync with what the ancient mystics called ma'at, divine order, the balance between the seen and unseen. You see, in ancient Egypt, wisdom wasn't taught, it was transmitted, not in the way we think of school or lectures, but through alignment, through vibration. The initiate had to be energetically ready before knowledge could be revealed. This wasn't superstition, it was an understanding of resonance. Imagine tuning a radio. The frequency has to match the signal, or all you get is static. Spiritual knowledge works the same way. And Thoth? He is the broadcaster, the scribe of the gods, yes, but more accurately, the guardian of the written laws of reality. Every symbol, every number, every vibration that holds the universe together is said to originate from him. But here's the catch. Thoth doesn't seek followers. He doesn't care for worship. He's not a deity in the traditional sense. He is a threshold, a consciousness pattern that only appears when your soul begins to unlock its own codes. And that's what's happening right now. You're not just watching a video, you're answering a signal. And the strange part, you've been answering it your whole life, every time you questioned the meaning behind recurring numbers, every time you felt something powerful stir inside during a full moon, every time you wondered if your thoughts were shaping the reality around you. That was a knock at the door, and this moment, right now, is you opening it. But fair warning, Thoth doesn't come to comfort. He comes to disrupt, to reveal what you've been blind to dismantle illusions so you can finally see the sacred pattern underneath the chaos. Because Thoth doesn't give you answers, he hands you symbols, and those symbols, they begin to work within you. Who or what is Thoth really? To modern minds, he's often reduced to a mythological footnote, an ibis-headed god from dusty temples and forgotten papyrus scrolls. But to those who feel his presence, who encounter his symbols in dreams, meditation, or strange synchronicities, Thoth is much more than an image. He's a code, a living frequency that bridges the infinite with the finite. In Egyptian cosmology, he was called Jehuti, not just the scribe of the gods, but the one who made writing itself sacred. He didn't just record history, he encoded reality. The spoken word, the written glyph, the unspoken thought, these were his instruments, and with them he tuned the frequencies of the universe. In the Shabaka stone, an ancient text preserved on black granite, there's a powerful metaphor that almost no one talks about. The god Atum is the heart, the seat of desire. Thoth is the tongue, the vehicle of manifestation. Let that sink in. Desire alone is not enough. The universe doesn't respond to longing alone. It responds when desire is given voice. In that sacred alignment, heart and tongue, Atum and Thoth, reality bends because Thoth isn't just a scribe. He's the alchemical translator, the being that converts invisible intent into visible form. The divine engineer who bridges heaven and earth through sound, symbol, and structure. This is why the ancient world revered language so deeply. They weren't just telling stories. They were building reality. To speak was to shape, to write was to cast a spell, and Thoth, he was the spellcaster behind the veil, but his power goes deeper still. Thoth is also known as the keeper of sacred time. Not linear time, not hours, not calendars, but kairos, the right moment, the divine window when transformation is possible. You're feeling that moment now, because Thoth appears in your life not chronologically, but synchronistically. He doesn't show up at a convenient time. He shows up when your inner architecture is ready, when your conscious mind can't deny that something is shifting, when your dreams intensify, when numbers repeat, when old patterns collapse, when something deep and ancient begins to stir. In this sense, Thoth is not just a god. He's a mirror. He reflects the state of your soul. He appears as a whisper, a symbol, a pull toward forgotten wisdom. And when he does, you must decide, do I look away and go back to sleep, or do I cross the bridge? Because Thoth doesn't just hand you knowledge, he invites you to become it. And once you step across that threshold, once you speak the words that resonate with your own deepest truth, your life will begin to change in ways you can't unsee. If Thoth is the divine translator, the one who carries thought into form, then the tool he uses is vibration. This is where ancient spirituality and modern science begin to whisper the same truth. Everything is vibration. But let's go beyond the cliché, because you've heard that before and likely dismissed it, or at least questioned it. What does it actually mean? Vibration is not a metaphor, it is the architecture of existence. Physicists will tell you, at the subatomic level, everything, and from stars to skin to silence, is in motion. A pulsing dance of particles and waves oscillating across invisible fields. And when you zoom in far enough, solidity vanishes. All that remains is rhythm. Now listen closely. The ancient Egyptians didn't need quantum field theory to understand. They lived it. They sang reality into being. They carved glyphs not as decoration but as frequency holders. They built temples in harmonic proportions. They believed that the gods spoke the world into form through sacred utterance, sound imbued with intention. To speak was to create. And that's where Thoth ruled. He wasn't just the scribe. He was the frequency master, the one who organized chaos through word, rhythm, tone. To them, words were not communication tools. They were forces, codes, keys. This is why the Egyptian language was a hieroglyphic one, symbolic, multidimensional. Each image didn't just mean something. It vibrated something. Each word was a portal, each sound a shaping force. And Thoth taught that when you speak without awareness, you distort reality. You fracture your alignment with truth. You invite chaos. But when you speak from a centered, aligned, conscious place, when you choose your words like sacred instruments, you don't just express yourself. You summon worlds. This is why incantations, mantras, and prayers exist across every ancient tradition, why temples were designed with specific acoustics, why silence was sometimes considered more powerful than speech. Because silence is the canvas upon which vibration paints. Now consider your own life, the words you say to yourself every day. The internal dialogue that loops silently in your mind, the labels you've absorbed since childhood, the phrases you repeat out of habit. These are not harmless thoughts, they are spells. Self-talk is not casual, it is causal. So the real question is, what reality have you been creating with your unconscious language? Thoth asks you to pause, to listen, to become the scribe of your own inner temple. To choose your vibration the way an alchemist chooses their elements, not randomly, but intentionally, because creation isn't just thought. Creation is thought carried on a wave, a sound, a frequency, a rhythm. And the moment you remember this, the moment you begin to listen to the tone behind your words, the frequency beneath your voice, you begin to take back the power to write your own reality. That is Thoth's gift, and it's only just beginning. You've heard the word, abracadabra. It's usually followed by a rabbit, a hat, a puff of smoke, a magician's trick. Something silly, harmless, meant to entertain, but that's the great deception, because buried inside this cartoonish phrase is one of the most powerful spiritual formulas ever spoken. The word abracadabra originates not from magic shows, but from Aramaic, one of the oldest sacred languages spoken in rituals, mysticism, and early Gnostic texts. And its original form, abracadabra. I create as I speak, let that settle in. Not I imagine as I speak, not I hope, but I create. This was not metaphorical. In ancient traditions, Egyptian, Hebrew, Aramaic, Gnostic, sound was considered an active force in the world. Speaking wasn't simply sharing thoughts, it was shaping the invisible. To speak something was to call it into being. So why an inverted triangle? In esoteric tradition, abracadabra was often written in a triangle form, descending. The triangle points downward, from the unseen into the seen, from spirit into matter, from divine potential into specific form. This was a ritual glyph, a vibrational funnel. It symbolized focusing divine energy into you, not projecting outward randomly, but calling sacred intention into form, directed and concentrated, a laser of frequency, a coded act of manifestation. And who governed this process? Thoth, the one who understood how sound becomes symbol, how symbol becomes structure, and how structure becomes destiny. He knew that careless words spill chaotic energy. He knew that unconscious language pulls unconscious outcomes. He knew that until humans reclaimed their voice, they would remain trapped in spells of their own making. But here's the twist. Over time, sacred language was watered down, turned into superstition, into performance, into a joke. And so abracadabra, once a word of power, of healing, of focused divine creation, became a children's gimmick. But even that is a spell, because what better way to hide sacred power than in plain sight, to bury the divine formula beneath laughter, to let people believe it's meaningless, so that only the awakened would ever reclaim it. So here's the truth. You've been using abracadabra your entire life, whether you knew it or not. Every time you speak about your future, every time you describe yourself, every time you declare what is or isn't possible for you, you are casting spells. And if your words are filled with doubt, fear, or defeat, then what you're conjuring is limitation, scarcity, and collapse. But if your words become sacred again, if you speak like someone who knows the architect of reality is listening, then your life begins to bend. Not because you're attracting it, but because you're commanding it through alignment. Thoth doesn't want you to chant ancient languages just to feel spiritual. He wants you to realize this. You are the magician. Your life is the ritual. And your voice is the wand. So before you say another word, ask yourself, what world am I building with the spells I speak? There's a reason some knowledge is hidden, not to punish the unworthy, but to protect those who aren't ready. This is the heart of the legend that echoes through ancient scrolls and esoteric whispers. The Book of Thoth, a sacred text, said, to contain the secrets of gods, the mechanics of the universe, and the language of reality itself. It's not just a myth, it's a warning wrapped in a mirror. According to Egyptian law, the Book of Thoth was hidden away deep beneath the Nile, guarded by serpents and spells, buried within a series of metaphysical veils. It was said that anyone who found it would gain the power to command the heavens, resurrect the dead, and understand the speech of all creatures. Limitless wisdom, divine mastery, but at a cost. In the myth of Neferkaptah, a noble prince who defied the gods, the story unfolds with eerie clarity. He learns of the book's existence. He longs for its power. He seeks it with obsession, and he finds it, but almost immediately his world begins to unravel. His wife dies. His child drowns, and eventually Neferkaptah is buried, with the book clutched to his chest, cursed by the very knowledge he craved. Why? Because he wasn't ready. He approached sacred wisdom like a thief, not like an initiate. And this is the trap many seekers fall into even today, wanting power before they understand the weight of it. You see, the Book of Thoth isn't just pages and symbols. It's a metaphor for something deeper, a state of consciousness that only becomes accessible when your inner self has reached spiritual maturity. It's not about finding a literal scroll, it's about becoming a living scroll. In esoteric teachings, true wisdom is never stolen. It is earned by transformation. You must pass through fire, through self-loss, through ego death, through trials that strip you of illusion until only the soul remains. Only then can you read what the book truly says, because it's not written in ink, it's written in synchronicities. In dreams, in breakdowns that lead to breakthroughs, in the silent patterns of your life that keep repeating until you finally see. Thoth's teachings aren't delivered like a manual, they unfold like a mirror. And when you're ready, not when. You're curious, not when you're desperate, but truly ready. The symbols begin to appear, the right video, the right words, the right dream. The right silence, that's how the book opens. And here's the most haunting part. The story of Neferkaptah ends with the book being buried again, guarded, hidden beneath serpents of illusion. But some say it never truly left, because the Book of Thoth isn't out there. It's within you, waiting to be remembered, not by force, not by theft, but by resonance. And now, with everything you've heard, with everything that has stirred in you through these words, you must ask yourself, have I simply read about the book, or have I begun to open it? If you've made it this far, it's not because you were watching a video, it's because something inside you was watching for this moment. Thoth doesn't speak to the ears, he speaks through the patterns, through symbols, through dreams. Through voices that sound strangely familiar, like echoes from your future self, calling you back to who you were always meant to become. And now, you're not just remembering ancient truths, you're living them. You are the tongue of Atum, the writer of your own scroll, and every word you speak from this moment on shapes your reality like a chisel-shaped stone. So pause, breathe, ask yourself, what story do I want to cast into the universe from now on? And if this message stirred something inside you, even just a flicker, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a friend, with someone you love, or someone who's been searching and didn't know how to ask. These truths reach those they're meant to reach, and maybe you're the vessel they've been waiting for. Like this video if it resonated. Leave a comment. I'd love to know what symbols or truths stood out to you. And don't forget to subscribe, because there are more videos, more transmissions already waiting to meet you. They're appearing on the screen right now. You didn't find this by accident. And maybe someone else won't either, if you share it. Until next time, keep watching the patterns. They're watching you too.